So there's this guy called Hrothgar who's the king of the Danes. Actually, he is really, really cool because he's good at killing people. So cool and conceited, in fact, that he decides to build himself the most amazing mead hall ever. He names it whatever, and plans on living there happily ever after with his men, drinking themselves silly with mead. But then, of course, a horrible demon monster thing descended from Cain has to ruin all their drunken fun. Its name is Grendel. In the meantime, across the sea in Geatland, Beowulf, who is the nephew of the Geatish king, hears about this Grendel business and decides to help out the Danes, because he too conceitedly believes that he's the awesomest person ever. He sails over to the land of the Danes with his posse. When he meets Hrothgar, Beowulf reminds him that his father pledged allegiance to Hrothgar, and then tells him about all the things he's done that make him so ridiculously awesome. He's actually so sure that he can kill this Grendel fellow that he offers to battle him completely unarmed. After a party in the mead hall where Beowulf verbally slaps some Dane in the face for being jealous, everyone goes to bed. Of course, Grendel shows up and eats one of the Geats before Beowulf tears one of its arms off with his bare hands, leaving Grendel to skulk back to his swamp to die of shame. Beowulf hangs the bloody arm on the wall as if to say, "Booyah!" right in the Danes' faces. The Danes throw a party the next day, though, with plenty of mead. Also, some bloke sings an irrelevant song about a king named Finn. That night, Grendel's mother decides to show up and start eating people because she's sad. But Beowulf doesn't do a thing because he's sleeping blissfully unaware next door. Hrothgar whines to Beowulf and asks him to kill this monster too, bribing him with lots and lots of money. So Beowulf rides over to the lake where Grendel's mummy lives and dives in with an unbeatable sword and fully clothed in armor. It's no surprise that his men leave in despair after 12 hours when they notice a lot of blood floating to the surface. But of course, they're wrong. In truth, Beowulf swims downward for half a day without ever needing to breathe, since he apparently has gills, is Harry Potter, or is God. And what do you know? When he finally reaches Grendel's mother, the unbeatable sword doesn't work. However, there just happens to be a giant sword nearby, so he steals that and chops off her head in one blow. Then he cuts off the head of Grendel's corpse too, just for kicks and giggles. When he comes back to the surface, the Danes and Geats parade the head around on a stick and have another party. After taking Hrothgar's money, Beowulf finally leaves for home where he retells the entire story to his uncle. But that's not even the end of the story. His uncle dies shortly after that and Beowulf becomes king. 50 years later, some idiot decides to steal a bedazzled goblet from the lair of a dragon. The dragon then proceeds to go on a rampage and attacks Beowulf's throne hall, which looks an awful lot like that other place. Then for some reason, the poet decides that he should probably explain how Beowulf's uncle died. So he does. He died in a battle, by the way, but moving on. Although Beowulf is now old and feeble, he still thinks he can take on the dragon. But he fails rather miserably. After he's fatally wounded by the dragon, only one of his men actually comes to help him. They stab the thing to death. Beowulf then has an impossibly long death scene and dies. Wiglaf, that's the other guy's name, yells at the rest of the Geats for being scaredy cats. Then they burn Beowulf's body in a pyre.